Did you know some old quarters can be worth thousands of dollars? Today, we'll show you 3 very rare US quarters that could be in your pocket right now. One might even be worth $15,500. Stay with us to find out why these coins are so special. First up, we have the 1965 George Washington quarter. You might be thinking, what makes this coin worth $15,500? Well, let me explain. In 1965, the US government made a big decision. There was a shortage of coins, and metal prices were rising fast. So, they decided to stop using 90% silver in quarters and instead started using a mix of copper and nickel. This change was made to save money and make the coins cheaper to produce. That's when the silver was removed, and these new copper-nickel quarters started to appear in 1965. Now, you might think all 1965 quarters are the same, but that's not true. Here's where it gets interesting. While most of the 1965 quarters were made without any problems, there was a small batch that was made incorrectly. Normally, quarters have a mint mark on them. This mark tells you where the coin was made. For example, if the coin was made in Philadelphia, it won't have a mark. If it's made in Denver, it will have a D, and if it's made in San Francisco, there will be an S. But in 1965, something went wrong. Some 1965 Washington quarters were made in Philadelphia, but these didn't have the mint mark, which is very unusual. These are called no mint mark quarters. And that mistake is what makes them special and valuable. So, why are these coins so valuable? Well, first, they are rare. Out of all the 1965 quarters made, only a few didn't have the mint mark. Since they are so hard to find, collectors are willing to pay a lot of money for them. Plus, 1965 is a special year because it was when the US switched from silver to copper-nickel in quarters. So, these coins are extra valuable because of that. But just finding a 1965 quarter with no mint mark doesn't mean it's automatically worth a lot of money. The condition of the coin is also really important. Let me tell you why. If you find a 1965 quarter with no mint mark, don't get too excited just yet. The coin needs to be in great condition to be worth a lot. If the coin has been used a lot and is scratched, dirty, or worn out, it won't be worth much. To get the highest price, the coin needs to be in mint condition. An uncirculated 1965 quarter, meaning one that looks brand new and hasn't been used much, can be worth $15,500. But remember, it needs to be in perfect condition. If it's scratched or worn, the value will go down a lot. Uncirculated coins are those that look like they've just been made, with sharp details and no signs of wear. If you find a 1965 quarter that looks brand new, it could be worth a lot of money. So, if you think you found a 1965 quarter without a mint mark, don't get too excited right away. Check the coin's condition first. If it's in really good shape, it could be worth thousands. But if it's worn out, it's not going to be worth much. If you're unsure, it's always a good idea to take the coin to a professional to get it checked and appraised. Next up, we have another Washington quarter, but this one is from 1966. You might think, it's just a regular quarter from the 1960s, but this coin has something special that makes it worth around $21,000. Let me explain. In 1966, the US Mint was in the middle of a change. After the removal of silver from quarters in 1965, the minting process was still a bit in transition. The Mint had stopped making proof coins for circulation, and most of the 1966 coins were intended just for regular use. But, during this time, something unusual happened with a small batch of these quarters. Here's what makes these quarters special. Some of the 1966 Washington quarters were made at the Philadelphia Mint but were accidentally struck without a mint mark. Normally, coins from the US Mint have a mint mark. If the coin was made in Philadelphia, it has no mark. If it was made in Denver, there's a D, and if it was made in San Francisco, it has an S. But for some reason, these 1966 quarters were struck without a mint mark, and that's what makes them so valuable. So, why does this matter? The absence of the mint mark on these quarters makes them rare. In fact, These no-mint mark 1966 quarters are some of the rarest and most sought-after Washington quarters by collectors. Because there are so few of them, they've become highly valuable. If you find a 1966 quarter with no mint mark, especially in great condition, it could be worth up to $21,000. That's a huge amount of money for a coin that could be sitting in your change jar or in your old coin collection. However, the value of these coins depends a lot on their condition. If the coin is scratched, dirty, or worn from years of use, it won't be worth nearly as much. But if you find one in mint condition, meaning it looks almost brand new, then it could be worth a lot of money. The better the condition, the higher the value. So, if you happen to find a 1966 no-mint mark quarter, take a close look at it. If it looks in great shape, sharp details, no visible wear, it could be very valuable. It's worth taking care of and getting it checked by a professional appraiser. You never know, it might just be worth more than you think. Remember, while these coins are rare, finding one in perfect condition is even rarer. So, if you're lucky enough to find a 1966 quarter with no mint mark in good shape, it could be your chance to make some serious money. Alright, let's move on to our third coin, the 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark. While it might not be as rare as the 1965 or 1966 quarters, it's still a valuable find. A 1967 quarter without a mint mark can still be worth up to $6,250. Let's dive into why this coin is worth so much. 1967 was another key year for U.S. coins. This was a time when the U.S. was moving further away from using silver in most of its circulating coins. After the changes in 1965 and 1966, the U.S. Mint kept using a copper-nickel mix instead of silver for quarters, dimes, and other coins. But, like with other years during this period, a small mistake happened when some of the 1967 Washington quarters were struck without the mint mark. Usually, a mint mark on a coin tells us where it was made. If the coin was made in Philadelphia, it doesn't have a mint mark. If it was made in Denver, it'll have a D, and if it was made in San Francisco, it'll have an S. However, in 1967, some of the Washington quarters minted at the Philadelphia Mint didn't have the mint mark at all. This is what makes them valuable. Now, the 1967 no-mint mark quarters are a little different from the 1965 and 1966 versions. While they are still considered a mistake, and collectors do value them, they're not quite as rare or as expensive as the 1965 and 1966 no-mint mark quarters. But don't be fooled, this coin is still worth a significant amount, especially if it's in excellent condition. Coins from this period were made in large numbers, but the 1967 no-mint mark quarters are still a bit of a mystery because they were struck incorrectly. As with the other era coins we've talked about, these 1967 quarters are highly sought after by collectors who look for these kinds of mistakes. So, why is the 1967 no-mint mark quarter worth up to $6,250? Well, that's because it's not easy to find these coins in good condition. Just like the 1965 and 1966 coins, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. A 1967 no-mint mark quarter in excellent condition can be worth thousands, but one that's worn or scratched won't bring in nearly as much. If you find a 1967 quarter with no mint mark, check its condition carefully. If it's well preserved with little wear, it could be worth a lot more than you think. Even though it may not reach the prices of the 1965 or 1966 no-mint mark quarters, a 1967 coin in great shape can still bring in a nice amount of money. Remember, collectors love these types of coins because they were made during a time of transition in U.S. coinage. The switch from silver to copper-nickel, and the mistakes made during the minting process, make these coins especially interesting. So, if you come across a 1967 no-mint mark quarter, don't overlook it. It might be worth more than you realize. Unbelievable, right? 3 ultra-rare U.S. quarters with jaw-dropping values. Whether it's the 1965, 1966, or 1967 no-mint mark, these coins prove that small mistakes can lead to massive rewards. If you ever find one, you could be holding on to thousands of dollars. If you loved this video, Hit that thumbs up and subscribe for more coin treasures. Found any hidden gems? Share with us in the comments. Happy collecting and good luck!